Today we're going to be talking about manifesting. And according to popular belief, you have to plan a lot to do that. But from our own experiences, we have found manifesting to be more about being than doing. So we're going to chat about that today and some of our own experiences. So who wants to start us off?
Okay, Anthony, I love this topic because you can go on social media any day of the week, anytime, and you even say the word manifesting anywhere you're at, and you're going to get something on your feed that regarding it. And it's telling you you have to write stuff down. You have to say this mantra chant 10 times. And I just want to tell you that I have manifested things in my life that I knew were going to happen and I made happen. I have no idea how it happened. I didn't write the mantra 3 times. I didn't turn around in circles, play a certain song, chant. Now, with that being said, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that because some people really value some sort of objective and something they can focus on to get themselves in the correct energy to manifest. So I think that that's fine. And there are a lot of websites and people that you speak your language that you can learn from if you need a little more structure. But I don't want people to feel like they can't do it. It's more about manifesting is believing in your body and in your mind that something's going to happen and putting the energy into that thing so it happens. That's the way I see manifesting. What do you think, Carol?
I do believe it's about what you are putting into the energy because you can put positive things into the energy or negative things into the energy for yourself, and it's going to happen either way. So I feel like it's very important to always have positive thinking, even if we're in a difficult situation. It's not about, oh, woe is me, this is happening, I don't have anything. It's more about saying, okay, in the future, I will have this, or these things are going to happen going forward. And you're putting that positive spin on it, that positive energy. But I find that even though I do it now as an adult, my brain gets in the way and it takes me a lot more conscious thought to actually get rid of the brain to just put these things in the energy. And I feel like I was so much better at it as a child because there was that innocence there, right? And I just, without doubt, without faith, I just totally believed that I could have these things happen. So let's say I wanted to go to Disney World and I just was like, oh, I think I want to do that one day and I hope somebody will take me. And then lo and behold, grandparents take me to Disney World. So I often think back of trying to get back to that state of childhood innocence when I'm manifesting. And have to think about like, what is that difference there? So why is it or was it better for me as a child? And was it better for you guys when you were younger?
Well, I do the power by reflection, like observing and then looking back. So I love that you said the child thing because, like Tracy said there, you can go online and you will get berated with blogs, websites, all these different tools and structures and steps that you should do. But a few years ago, I remember sitting down and thinking back and reflecting and saying, the best time in my life that I was able to manifest was when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no rules, no regulations. I just went with what felt right to me at the time. And I honestly, I thought that like God favored me at one stage because I got everything that I would ask him for. Even
Nice.
competitions in school, I kept winning the bloody competitions. And I couldn't come up like with a plausible explanation for it other than it was manifesting. I literally expected it and then it would occur. And I was even thinking, I looked at the child thing and I was very grateful as a child, right? That came natural to me. I would always ask, expect it, but also be very grateful. So I don't see it surprising then that we kind of see that mentioned today as well. But just to quickly jump forward, then let's say then I gave up religion. God was, thrown out the window. But I still manifested all through my teens and my 20s. And at that stage, I wasn't attributing it to anybody. Like the story changed. Now it was about my energy and what I was sending out and what was coming back at me. So it's like I learned something from, let's say, the childhood period of how I was manifesting then totally different to the adolescent and the young adult. And now almost looking back on them, I'm kind of tweaking again now that I'm older again. But it's almost like trying to find what worked from those different times in my life. And this is typical of me exploring and playing with a subject, right? Rather than going to a website, we'd say, and looking up at steps 1 to 10 of what someone's telling me to do. That's not me. I'm going to kind of figure out my own process.
Well, I want to know, Anthony, if you, when you were younger and that would keep happening with the winning the competitions and stuff, if you were aware that you were putting energy into that, or were you just as a child like amazed that it was happening? I ask the question because I feel like there's so many things in life as we get older that we reflect on, oh, that's what that was, right? And we
Hmm.
learn. So I just wonder what your experience was when you were a kid, if you knew you were doing that.
So I wasn't amazed because I expected it. And I didn't think nothing
Mm,
to do with my own energy. But yet, expecting something has a certain energy about it, right? Now we know that looking back in reflection. But back then, I was requesting it and full sure like that what I was asking for was being heard and it was mine. There was no question about that.
yeah,
So that has a certain energy or vibration about it that I now realize in, let's say, hindsight. But
yeah,
that's completely different to the adolescent then where, reaching out to source or universe or whatever for it, that completely disappeared. And now it
mm,
was just a matter of, I want it, I'm going to get it. That still has the
yeah.
same kind of vibration to me, even though the story has changed.
It's interesting because when I have manifested things, even upon reflection now, it didn't really happen in my childhood. And I think, we all grow up differently. So my childhood was more about survival. I was very quiet. I would take everything in and just pay attention, I guess. And then when I moved forward to where I was on my own as a technically an adult, but not really, um, then I was just aware that like maybe in a rebellious way, I kind of like stumbled over manifesting like this is what I want, it's going to happen, and it did. And then I was like, wow, I'm so again, it also came with gratitude, like you said. And the energy was like direct and focused on what it was. One thing I wanted to say about it is those things that I can point to now that I've manifested, and there's been a lot of them were not difficult, because my belief was that it was happening. Like you said, I expected it. And there's so much gratitude in it. And I had the full faith in it. And so when you have full faith and all the energy is like in this swirl of like everything works together, it's just full speed ahead and it happens. And it's not going to not happen. So I experienced it more in those times as I kind of stepped into my own as a adult person.
Think I went through that phase like Anthony did of going from the childhood, oh yeah, I expect it. And wow, isn't that cool? But I very much had the faith that it was going to happen, whatever I wanted to manifest. And then came the doubting years of, oh, I don't know, can I really do that? And I think we all go through that phase as we transition from childhood to adulthood, right? So then it was like for me, I could still do it, and I did, and I still do, but I get in my own way more than I did then. So there's times when I want to manifest something, but I know and I'm aware I don't fully believe it's going to happen. And so then it doesn't, shocking, doesn't happen. So
Yeah.
I'm aware that I have to be in the right state of mind, the right state of belief, the right state of energy before I even put anything out there. And I'm also very careful how I phrase it as well because let's say, oh, I want to lose some weight, but I need to say in a healthy manner. Like, I don't want to lose weight because I'm ill, right? So I want to manifest conditions too. And I think I get in my own head that way sometimes as well. I feel like it's better when I kind of have a strong idea, but also a strong faith that this is what's going to happen in the way that it should happen. I feel like I call it allowance, but Anthony, you call it surrender.
I reflect on everything and see what more I can learn from it, right? So one thing is the child. I get in my head since I've grown up and became an adult. There was none of that when I was a child, and it was a lot more smooth. So there's a surrender to that. As a child, there's no resistance, okay? That's the difference.
Right.
But then as an adult, surrender is a lot more important because I almost see it as, let's say, the journey, your life, everything now is kind of in full motion. And then it's almost like you can try to manifest something that is counterproductive to where you actually want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Mm-hmm.
have to learn to surrender to that and understand that. Um, I'll just use me as an example. So in getting a house, I wanted to go straight out to the countryside, to the land, the animals, and have all of that. And then it's almost like it wasn't happening. And then I checked on myself and was like, why isn't that happening? And I could almost feel the resistance inside me, where it was like, I know I can have a house, but I'm fighting it because I have a particular narrative or vision that I want it to be. But then that's not surrendering. Surrendering to it is saying, the request is my house, and I know that whether I get the one I want right now or later, that's the expectation. That's the child coming back saying, "Oh, I'll take what you give me now, but I know I'm still getting the one that I want." Whereas the
Mhm.
adult can almost resist that and then say, "No, I'm only getting the dream house." But then that discounts everything that you have to do. You might have a journey to do before you get there, and I'm just using the house as an example, right? You can do the exact same thing for a partner. I'm sick of being single and I want to meet a partner. Okay, you can meet a partner today, but is that the relationship that is forevermore? That's the dream that you have in your head? It might not be if you met that partner today. So can you surrender to the fact that you may have to wait 6, 12 months or whatever to improve yourself and then you meet that partner? You might say, oh, yeah, if I know I'm going to meet them in 12 months after I work on myself, then I'll definitely wait. But that's not surrendering. That's knowing ahead in advance. So I think there's a fine line between almost like you have the energy, you know that it's coming, like full on, full faith in the manifesting, but then being open to it's the way I like to put it actually is kind of makes it more, you can swallow it better is if you manifest something, put on a little tagline at the end and say, or better.
I like that.
I think being too rigid, you see, as an adult is counterproductive to the manifesting.
Exactly. I agree.
And that's not something that I had as a child. And so as an adult, it's fine. Like we have to live our lives. But I'm trying to find ways around it where I can lose that resistance and almost bring back the full-on expectation and trust that I had as the child.
Would you call resistance same as not accepting? Like, is acceptance a good word to put in there along with surrender?
Yeah. Change the narrative and say, can you accept an alternative?
Hmm.
Can you accept that not manifesting because there's something else? And you always hear this about, oh, the universe knows the full plan and that you have to keep that in perspective. That's the surrendering part. And if we look at all the religions, all of them speak about surrender. And honestly, surrender has a negative connotation to it because people think it makes someone weak. It takes enormous strength to surrender to the flow of life because you basically say, okay, I give up full control to the universe. I have this plan and I give up full control to the flow and I surrender to that. And I guarantee you, though, if you do that, you will vibrate at such a high frequency, you will manifest shit like there is no tomorrow. Like, here's another observation. All these people, let's say, who are top manifestors, not even alive today, I'm saying also throughout history, whether people created suffering or happiness, they were still manifesting. They had no idea of manifesting. They knew nothing about it, probably had no beliefs in energy providing and all of that, like the understanding that we have today. And yet they all manifested. Even the people who created immense suffering and pain on the planet had a vision to do that and then manifested that reality. So that tells me that there's no consciousness behind manifesting. It doesn't decide whether something you want is good or bad. And it doesn't care whether someone goes and writes it down 3 times or not. To me, it's coming back to when I was a child. It seems to always point about what's your vibration, what's your frequency, and are you in that zone where manifesting is like at its peak?
Yeah.
And so it has nothing to do with yourself either, being good person or bad person, according to what you're saying. It's neutral.
It doesn't judge.
Good one.
And even our lives, we always like there's a thing that there's judgment day when you go back. That's the wrong term. It's a life review. You're not being judged. In fact, the only one who'll judge it is yourself, that you could have done X and maybe you done Y instead. But there's no judgment from spirit, and the same way this universe, all of that energy, there's no judgment there either. So in other words, humans have the free will. You have power from spirit, and you took it into this reality, and your free will is what do you want to create with it? In this universe, we co-create with the universe, with the energy that's here. And what you create is up to you. And some people have used that for bad, some people have used it for good. And, maybe modern day has discovered actually we can also use it for ourselves.
Essentially, we're always then if I'm hearing you correctly, we're always in a state of manifesting. We always are. It's like your
Hmm.
energy attracts, you know, the energy you put in attracts what you get. So it's interesting that there's such a buzz to the concept of manifesting, quote in quotes, as like some amazing thing that you can do if you do all these things right and have the life of your dreams. But in essence, we're manifesting every day just by living our lives. And
Hmm.
we shouldn't limit what we want from that. There are no limits, right? So
Hmm.
essentially, like Carol was saying earlier, sometimes she gets in her own way. And I think as humans, we all do in whatever subject matter is for us as a person, that we struggle with or whatever, the self-talk or whatever it is. But there really is no limits on manifesting, and manifesting doesn't need to be this buzzword that's only special if you do it a certain way or, follow the rules or chant or any of those things, because everything you do in life, you have choices. And it's not really just about the choices because, you could choose to do something. People do it all the time because they don't want to upset somebody else or whatever. And it doesn't, but their energy of their body and who they are and what they actually want isn't really agreeing with that, but they still do it. So I think on the times that you manifest things like for the good that you want, you have to have the balance of body, mind, and faith. Like it has to be all three things kind of working fluidly together so that you can, shoot forward on this magical manifestation of whatever you're asking for. I mean, otherwise the thing gets in the way, the little doubt or the whatever, because the universe is infinite and there's no shortage of anything. But as humans, and especially as we get older and life gets harder, and whatever our problems are, that stands in the way, you know?
How much do you guys think that manifestation is hand in hand with your intuition? I'll tell you why I asked that question. Because one Christmas, I wanted to get my girlfriend a pair of pajama pants with her type of dog on them. Don't ask me why that needed to be the thing, but it was. And so I just put it to the universe. I need to find this for her. I think she'd really like that. Then my intuition told me, go to this store. And I felt like spirits going, this particular store. So I did. And I look around, I go to the women's section, whatever. They don't have them. And I was like, I really feel like this is the place I'm supposed to be. And then I feel the pull over to the men's department. So I go to the men's department, and there they are. There's the pajamas with the puppy on them. And they were women's pajamas that had been stuck over in the men's section. So they weren't even men's pajamas. Really felt like, okay, I manifested these and spirit helped me along, but I don't know that I would have found them if I hadn't also been paying attention to those signs and intuition. So what do you guys think?
I love that because, sorry, Anthony, I'm cutting you off because you probably
Grant.
could have had something good to say, but I love that because if you think back to some of our previous episodes, we had the episode on signs and what is intuition. And there's like a theme or a thread that goes through all of them that comes back to your higher self, aka
Mhm.
intuition. Manifesting fits right in there as part of being in the balance of paying attention to your higher self, being like in your body, in your spirit, in your mind, and it's all working together. I too played with fun things like that. Like I collected this certain type of purse. I only buy like thrift stuff. I don't really buy new stuff. And I had this one designer that I really liked of purse, and it was after Joe died, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to the thrift store today, and one of these purses better show up.
She shakes her
And
finger.
it did. And yeah, you know, but I believed it was going to happen because stuff like that would always happen when we go thrifting together. And so I was in the right energy, I was in the right mindset, and there it was. And it was also my favorite color. It was like olive green leather. I didn't even know this designer made that color in the leather purse, and I was stoked, So, but that at that time, because I knew how this all works, I kind of took notes for myself. So maybe for the listening audience, like what can you think of in your life where you had a time when you kind of, like Carol said, you're using your intuition, your higher self, like you knew something was going to happen, it's something you really wanted. That is something you manifested. And so you kind of pay attention to those clues, like Carol paid attention to the nudge. Oh, I know it's here. I need to go this way. I think intuition is huge in manifesting.
Well, I want to point out too that something pretty small, asking for a gift, really, it wasn't big, like the house or the trip to Disney or whatever. So it can be the small things. We don't have to manifest all of our major life choices. We can, but you can manifest some things like a parking spot up front too.
I'm so happy you just said it. It was in my head, and is she going to pick up on that parking spot or not?
Yes, I was using my intuition there.
When we were recording that episode, I can't remember what I said it during the recording or after because I can sidetrack into other topics. But we were speaking about doing that episode, and I used that exact example, if you remember, where I said you can almost try to manifest a parking space if you're going into town today. And then once you reach the edges of town, you start using your intuition on where that space is,
Yeah.
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I think that's just a perfect example of combining the two and almost making them happen instantaneously.
Yeah.
I thought of another example there where it was so, I love dogs
Hmm.
and I'm not like an expert with dogs or anything, but my dogs are always well behaved. So people naturally will ask me advice to help them with their dogs. And I remember one time telling someone like, they couldn't believe how my dog will walk properly on a lead. And in telling them how to do it, I suddenly had the realization that I'm manifesting on a time scale of seconds. So it was almost like they would walk right, the dog is dragging them, and then I was like, you're all tense. So I know for a fact that's not what you're seeing in your head. You're seeing the dog dragging you, and therefore it's coming out, and I can see it in your body. So I was like, let all that go, see yourself walking the dog properly, and then just make it happen. So in other words, there's a switch in their energy. And next
Yeah.
minute, it literally happens right before their eyes. So it's almost
Yep.
like they had the vision, shifted their energy, and then they manifested an outcome there and then in their reality.
Yeah. That's interesting. I was thinking when you said that whole thing about the dogs, when I had my kids, I had my daughter at 18, so it's like I knew in my head she was going to sleep through the night. Like I manifested it. She always slept through the night. So did my son. I knew I needed that. It felt right. I never had issues. But then I think about your dog example, and I used to rescue dogs. We've had 7 dogs at one time. I mean, dogs are my thing. Never had a problem challenging dogs. But after Joe died, like it has been a challenge. And so if we're trying to help the listeners, something struck me as you were telling that story that the issues that I have now, like with this puppy that I have, puppies are assholes. Sorry, but they are. It's like in the fine print. God makes them cute so you don't kill them, and that's just it. So, with that being said, I know that when he is misbehaving and doing things I don't want him to do, it's because I'm not in the right energy for him because dogs are very
Hmm.
sensitive to others' energy. So I think if we're helping the listeners, like, why are you having problem manifesting that? Like, take it one question back to before you put that energy in. For me, it's like, I don't feel as secure with my life. He feeds on that. When Joe was alive, we had him all dialed in. There was like,
Hmm.
things just work. So if you're trying to manifest, the perfect boyfriend, for example, but you know that you have a bad habit with X, Y, or Z, or you don't feel so good about yourself, like take it back to what's the fly in the ointment, if you will, that's getting you in the proper energy for moving your manifestation forward in the way that you see it in your mind or that you want it to happen and work on that.
I won't sidetrack now completely, but can I just say the spirit of dogs and the spirit of humans are so connected and more so than other animals because I believe that every dog comes into someone's life for a purpose. And your dog will come in and its soul has a contract with you. And if you have a dog that's misbehaving, it's literally to help you to rebalance yourself. Because as soon as you rebalance yourself, I
Yeah,
guarantee your dog will be balanced.
100%. Yep.
So I love dogs for that. I've not so my dog was whining last week and I looked, I was like, you whining for? And as soon as I said it, I looked, I was like, oh, she's losing patience. And then I was like, what do I have to work on? Bloody patience. Right.
Oh, never
Yep,
ask for patience.
100%.
So I was like, even now she's well behaved and everything, but I can still learn from my dog. And even use your dog. Dogs are very present. They don't live in the past or the future.
Yep.
Train yourself to see your dog, and as soon as you see your dog, check in on yourself. Am I being present? That's very
Hmm.
good as well, I feel, for manifesting. Because if you want to manifest something and you keep focusing on it, you're in the future.
Yeah.
You're not being present. You should say it, let it
Yep.
go, and stay present, right? You know that it's coming. As the child, I never focused on it. It was always present.
Yeah. I started a new job this last week or two, and the puppy's even acting out more because he's by himself a lot more.
Hmm.
And I know, like, I'm a hot mess trying to get my new schedule like flow going, and he is too. And so when I look at him, it's just like you said, a constant reminder. Okay, what am I need to check in with myself. Like it's just a reflection of what's happening, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, you're totally right.
Imagine that. Your dog can help you improve your manifesting
I said
because
that
you're,
on another episode. I said I learn from my puppy all the
yeah, you
time.
did, you
I
did, you
literally
did, yeah.
said that.
I love that you learn from your animals now. You learn from your chickens and everything.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to do that. Animals, they're here on this planet as almost to help humans to become better humans. And right now, if we look around at how all different species are suffering, we're failing miserably.
Yeah.
I'll stop talking about dogs now, sorry, because I have to go on about that for another half an hour.
Yeah, I'm allergic to dogs, guys. I like them, but no puppies for me. But I think children are like that as well. They're, the sweet, the innocent, the ones we have to learn to have patience with. I think they teach us a lot too. For people who don't have pets like me, you can learn a lot from the young. But how important is it though? I was just thinking when people say, well, I manifested that and I feel like I was in good energy with that, but it didn't happen at all, or it wasn't quite what I wanted. And you addressed that earlier when you were talking about the country house or the rural house. But do we have to be very, very specific with our manifestation wishes, or can we be broad, like, oh, I want to be successful? Do we need to define that success, or can we leave that up to the universe?
I'm not joking. It's so funny that you asked this question because I was talking to a friend like today and we were speaking about manifesting because I was like, I'm doing an episode tonight on manifesting. I didn't know you were going to ask that or anything, but that conversation basically came into my head just there now as an answer to your question. And what I felt it was like is if we try to manifesting, let's say something broad that's way out there, right? Oh, make me successful.
Mhm.
You're not being specific. And I don't think like it's not going to happen, but you could improve the chances for yourself by being a bit more specific. And then we were chatting today, and I was like, well, maybe if you didn't know, well, then the answer to that is you always know, let's say, what your next step will be, right? So imagine we want to manifest success and it's 10 steps away, just so you have something to visualize. But if I can't define what that thing is 10 steps away from me, maybe I can define what step one of it is going to be.
Mhm.
It's almost like you can feel what that step one is inside in you. Go meditate, reflect on it. Like I learned so much by the way by reflecting this pondering thing. Now I understand completely why like scientists they do it all the time on different theories because answers will hit you. So if you almost ponder on what I don't know what success is to me yet, but what's the next thing I could do that would help that become my reality? You'll almost find step one and then you can work on manifesting that. And then it's almost like you forget about the rest, right? Two, three, four, five. But once you get one, two then becomes clear to you. The same as you get two,
Mhm.
three becomes clear. And before you know it, you've manifested step 10 and it could be way better than anything you could have ever imagined for yourself. That's a nice way as well to surrender because it's the co-creation. You're using your intuition to go inside and say, what's the next step for me? Because I want, like, happiness, love, success, whatever that is. So have your broad thing, but then go inside and find out what's the first step towards that.
So I'm just going to interject because I have this deck of cards, oracle cards called the Power of Surrender. And I thought, well, I'll just pull one for the group today, including everybody who's listening. And as you were talking, I was like, let me turn over this top card. I said I already shuffled it, so nobody would have to listen to me shuffle. And it says, surrender to your intuition. And again, we did not plan this
Um,
ahead of time. And it says on the card, tune into your inner voice. and let those moments guide you. So I think you're on target there.
Being honest, when they asked today, I didn't think of that answer. It just flowed out. And that's what I love when that happens sometimes because I'm sitting there in amazement myself, almost as if someone was telling it to me. And then that's when I feel that that is complete, Anthony removed, and this is spirit sharing something with me.
Because you surrendered that. Yeah, you surrendered yourself.
Like a lot of us grow up thinking we have to know the answer. Like in school, you have to know the answer. You have to know what you want to do with your life. You have to know, you have to know. And that's very, when you live too much, it goes back to your pondering. When you live too much unbalanced, in my opinion, in your right brain and don't allow the balance of your spirit, your intuition, your soul to be part of the equation, then, it's harder to manifest or get those things that you want. So I like the idea of breaking it down, like what's the next step. And I just know from doing astrology and life maps for people, like everybody is an individual and wired differently. So some people need a little more specific things to manifest, or they're just more right brain, left brain. There's a multitude of differences in everybody, but my point is when you can break it down and kind of go back to where the foundation of where you're going is and build on those steps, it's like building a house. You need four walls, but you can't just put four walls on no foundation. You have to really envision like the sheetrock and all the plumbing and all of that has to be included. Otherwise, it's going to just fall down like a house of cards. So if you're going to manifest and you're having a hard time putting the whole picture together, break it down and start smaller is really good advice in anything you do, you know?
Mm-hmm. It keeps you from that analysis paralysis as
Yeah.
well. Get you out of your head
Yeah.
of exactly how do I want this to go? Let me just start step one. I also was pondering, guys, we are talking about manifesting for ourselves, but can we manifest for other people, our loved ones, our friends? Is that possible?
All the religions I feel have this, so they all have prayer. And then you would pray for
Mhm.
someone because they need it. And I don't care whether you're religious or not, whether you call it a prayer or not. You can call it prayer. I might call it an intention. If Carol was sick today, there's nothing stopping me from sending an intention for Carol to get well. The same then I can apply that for manifesting and say, Carol wants something to happen and Tracy wants something to happen. It's the same thing. I can almost send a prayer or an intention to give it a boost, is what I would feel. But can I put in my clause, like the surrender clause? Let's just say that your friend wanted to meet somebody to fall in love with. Everyone will have that intention that they want that to happen for their friend. Now, whether you actually send it as, let's say, an intention or a prayer is another story, but let's say you did. And then the universe says, look, they need to work on themselves before they're meeting that person. I don't think then that it's discounted that you sent it. It's just
Mhm.
that they have to kind of build on themselves before what they're manifesting can become a reality. And I would imagine that the energy can be used then anyway. It's not like, you can apply humor and say, oh, I sent it now, so it has to be used now. No, who said that? I said the energy, and when the time is right, that person will meet the one that they wanted. And I don't think there's ever, there's no harm in sending good intentions to family, friends. You can send good intentions to the world.
On the opposite, you were talking about good intentions. So somebody who's sick, help them with healing or help them,
Hmm.
with some things that they would like to have in their life. But what if I'm pissed off at Anthony and I have the intention and I want to manifest him tripping over his own shoelaces? What happens there when you don't have good intentions with manifesting?
If I trip after this call, you are dead.
Well, I'm not pissed at you, so you're good.
Again, I think there's no judgment behind the universe and all the energy. So I would imagine that that energy will be sent. That was your intention, that gets sent. I would slap a massive warning label on that though, because if you know that you can do that, you should also know that energy has to be balanced.
Hmm.
And so if you send out that energy in this life or another, you will get that energy back because before your human experience is done, all energy has to be balanced. So, do that at your own.
I didn't. I'm just putting that out to the universe. I did not actually put that out there. Just an example.
Obviously, people will think about it, and we've no way to prove that only good energy is sent. I think that's too humanistic. All energy is sent, but you better be conscious that your energy as well, and you will have to rebalance that energy.
I do subscribe to, you put the energy out there, good or bad, it's out there. But what I will say is I don't want to freak out our listeners thinking that somebody can put out bad things and that something will actually happen that's bad to you, because even if somebody is trying to manifest something bad for you, doesn't mean that you as a person on the receiving end will actually experience something bad. I want people to know that, because you are your own person, body, mind, and spirit, that can not believe in that energy, not accept it, not feel like it's something that's going to happen to you. And that stops it on that end. People have bad intentions about people all the time. But again, if we're talking about manifesting has to be this fluid balance of all things. So that doesn't mean that you're going to be the receiver of them putting a voodoo on you. If you're like, I don't subscribe to that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good point you brought up, because as Anthony was saying that, my thought was the phrase from when we were kids, I'm rubber, you're glue, bounces off of me, goes back to you. So for me, it doesn't affect me at all. You can wish whatever, but I have my own energy around myself, and yours is going to go right back to you, which is what Anthony was saying about karma's going to get you if you manifest bad things. Boomerang effect.
This existence is a co-creation. So you need to be conscious that you're always manifesting. One last thing I will say to that is, in spirit, we manifest instantaneously. So the only difference is, in this reality, we still manifest, but we do it on a much slower time scale. But that's a good thing, because if we manifested as quick as we do when we're back in spirit, the amount of shit that would happen that we didn't want to happen.
Everybody manifest a great week ahead.
And with that, we'll see you on the next one.
Bye. Bye.
Blood.